Hello friends, this is Worm, and it's Tuesday, but we're not going to do a Hot Take Tuesday. Instead, we're just going to have a little bit of fun, and we're going to rank every single crafted raid weapon, based on my opinion, on a tier list from S tier down to D tier, which are the best, which are the worst. So I'm going to shrink my face, and we're going to do this tier list. So I'll see you in a second. All right, so here we go. Mind you, I feel like I should have pointed this out in the intro, but the purpose of this tier list is to talk about the best PvE weapons here. This is not going to consider PvP. This is just PvE. Which of these crafted raid weapons are the best and worst in PvE? This is also in my personal opinion. Your opinion may differ. And if that's the case, just let me know in the comment section why you think something deserves to be higher or lower. But with that being said, I've got them all kind of mixed up down here. Let's go ahead and get into it. Sorry. Starting with the first one here, which is Oversoul Edict. Now, Oversoul Edict is a 540 round per minute pulse rifle, arc pulse rifle. And it's actually got some really nice rolls. Demolitionist Volt Shot is a really nice roll on it. It also has this new perk, Sword Logic. I'm going to have to say for PvE, I feel like B tier is a solid starting point for it. We might move it up. We might not. It is a little bit lacking in terms of its stats. It doesn't have like the best stats by any means. But for what it is, it's a solid weapon. I think B tier is a pretty fair place for this weapon. Maybe we'll move it. Who knows? But moving on, we got Trusty. All right, and that's gonna go up there. Maybe not, but Trusty is a solar 260 round per minute scout rifle. Now, as many of you know, I love 260 scouts. I think they're fantastic. I think they're a lot of fun. It can get rapid hit incandescent, which is the crafted roll that I have. It's a strong weapon. In fact, anything that can get incandescent is already moving up the chart in terms of viability. This is an absolute amazing weapon. This is a unit of a weapon. And so I think that it does belong in S tier. Yeah, you know what? No. I think it belongs in A tier. And the only reason why it belongs in A tier is because it can't get heal clip on it yet. Maybe they change that in the future. But this is a very, very good weapon. This might be at the top of my A tier. We might move it to the bottom of my S tier, but I don't know. It's a solid weapon, but I think A tier is a pretty decent place for this weapon to go. But moving on, let's talk about Defiance of Yasmin. Now, Defiance of Yasmin, again, this is a PvE tier list. This is not including PvP, because if it was PvP, this would be up here in S tier. But I think if we're being honest with ourselves, Defiance of Yasmin is not good in PvE. Like, it doesn't have damage perks that you want. It doesn't have reload perks that you want. There's actually, it directly competes with another sniper in here that we're going to get to towards the end. But I think the Defiance of Yasmin it's just not very good inside of PvE. I'm going to put it in D tier, and you're going to be hard-pressed to get me to change that. But moving on, we have Tyranny of Heaven. I think that Tyranny of Heaven is, honestly, it's an A tier weapon. It can get some really awesome rolls. The main roll I'm thinking of here is Dragonfly Incandescent, which is just a great roll all around. It's a lightweight bow, and for me personally, I do prefer lightweights inside of PvE activities. They just have a quicker draw time, and plus I'm not super far back away from the enemy, so I don't have issues with accuracy or anything like that. But it's a great bow inside of PvE. It's solar, of course it's solar, it has incandescent on it. I think that the only thing that could possibly make this better is if they gave it heal clip and incandescent. Heal clip would just be amazing because it's a bow and it reloads after every shot, so that would be pretty cool. I don't think it's quite as good as Trusty, if I'm being honest here. I think that Trusty is just better. So I think that's a pretty decent place for it. Quillam's Terminus. This is a 360 round per minute high impact machine gun, and I've got to put, I think I just have to put it here. Quillam's Terminus, when it was added, and it's these two weapons both. In fact, all of the weapons in King's Fall and Vow of the Disciple, which we'll get to in a second, they just need perk refreshes. But this is a 360 round per minute machine gun, which is already an unfavorable archetype. The reason I'm not putting it in D tier is because it does have some viability. You can get like Stats for All and Headstone on it, or Stats for All and Firefly. But I think they really could have taken this up a notch if they allowed players to get Firefly and Headstone. I'm not even sure how that would work, but that would be a really awesome role to see on this. But I think it belongs in C tier. Its perks are there's nothing to write home about. This whole archetype of weapon is nothing really to write home about. Like, it doesn't have high DPS. It doesn't really clear ads the way that some of the other machine guns do, like 450s or 900s. I think that it's a C tier. The only reason I'm not putting it in D tier is because it's one of, if not the only 360 stasis weapon. And it does have some roles that have, you know, good viability. Things like stats for all headstone. That's a great role on this weapon. That's a great role to craft. But I would definitely not say that it's something you should be, you know, breaking your neck to go out and get. But we'll move on to Sword Breaker. And Sword Breaker is a lightweight strand shotgun. I think a lot of people naturally would want to put this up here. And rightfully so. It's the only lightweight strand shotgun in the game. It's also got some incredibly good rolls, but I can't live with myself if I put it up here. I mean, I'm probably gonna put it at the top of B tier for now, because lightweights just struggle. Lightweights, they don't have a high ammo reserve. I think without any reserve mods, you're looking at like 14 or 15 shots, which is ridiculously low in my opinion. The perks that you can get on this are very good, but also, I mean, if I'm using strand, I'd probably just rather use a strand primary and then throw on an energy shotgun with you know, 1-2 punch or whatever perks you want to run on this. Now, of course, Sword Breaker can get some good perks on it and get things again. Sword Logic, very powerful perk that can turn the shotgun into an absolute monster, but it's still like a shotgun, and that's a common theme you're probably going to end up seeing from most of these is like shotguns are going to be pretty low. Like special weapons in general are probably going to be pretty low. Again, this is my personal tier list. This is not, you know, the ultimates guide or anything like that. But let's move on to Smite of Moraine. Oh man, when Smite of Moraine first dropped, I wanted it so bad. And it literally, guys, it literally took me years before I even got one to drop from King's Fall. Okay, and this is not me doing it every week by any means, but I didn't get a Smite of Moraine to drop till just a couple of months ago, which is ridiculous. And then Pantheon came out and it gave me a ton of red borders. Now I have it craftable. But Smite of Moraine, it's a kinetic 390 pulse rifle. I hate to do it, but I feel like it just has to go down here. I feel like it has to go in D tier. The reason why, the perks on it do not scream excitement at all. And again, this is probably due to it being just an old pulse rifle. Like it definitely needs some refreshed rolls here because King's Fall came out quite a long time ago. King's Fall dropped right after Vow of the, well, not right after, but came between Vow of the Disciple and, what was it? Was it Last Wish, I think, maybe? Or maybe it was, doesn't matter. Look, it doesn't matter. But Smite of Moraine, like the best role I can think of that you can get is like maybe Demolitionist and Firefly. And like that's a solid role, but it also is a 390 pulse rifle, and 390 pulse rifles just don't feel that good as of right now. I know that with the final shape we're getting some major pulse rifle changes, so maybe it feels better. I have a Harrowed Smite of Moraine with Dragonfly and Firefly on it that I'm hoping will become meta, but I don't know. It's going in D tier for now. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We have Deliverance. And Deliverance, this is a tricky one. I'm gonna put Deliverance in C tier, and I'm gonna put it just below Cullum's. It's not Quillum's, it's Cullum's. I'm gonna put it just below Cullum Terminus. If you had asked me this a year and a half ago, when Vow of the Disciple first dropped, I would have said this is easily an S tier weapon, because this, when it first launched, was the only fusion rifle that could have chill clip on it. It was the only special weapon that could have chill clip on it, which made it incredibly valuable. Now, not so much. It's just not that great. You know, Riptide exists, Arvindil exists. It's a mediocre fusion rifle. The only place I really see this being used is PvP, sorry. And of course, this is a PvE tier list. I'm almost tempted to move it down to D tier because it's so mediocre. In fact, I think I am. I'm gonna put it probably right there. It's such a mediocre weapon. Like it needs just a little bit more. Maybe if it had like reconstruction on it, which at the time they did the Vow of the Disciple weapons, they weren't putting reconstruction. I mean, reconstruction wasn't even an idea, because Vow of the Disciple came before they started adding perks to weapons outside of, raid weapons. So reconstruction would be great on this weapon. If it had reconstruction chill clip, I would easily move it up to probably B or even A tier, but it doesn't. So yeah, it's going to stay down in D tier, unfortunately. Doom of Chelchis, a 180 round per minute void scout rifle. This is a tough one because it's got some really cool rolls. But it also suffers from being a 180 round per minute scouts. I think that it's only fair to put this probably in the bottom of B tier for now, because it's not well, no, I'll put it at the top of C. I'll put it at the top of C tier. It's a 180 scout. I mean, what else can you really say about it? It's got some good rolls. You can get a really cool roll, Dragonfly and Firefly, which that's an awesome roll, but it's still a 180 scout. Like if it was a hand cannon, it would be way up higher probably, but it's a scout rifle. It struggles, it suffers. So it's going top of C tier. Acacia's Dejection. There we go. I think Acacia's Dejection is an absolutely phenomenal trace rifle. It can get some incredible perks. It can get rewind rounds. It can get reconstruction if you're into that. Of course, reconstruction is very good on special weapons. This does include, trace rifles. I think this gun is fantastic. I'm almost tempted to put it at the top of A, but I think Trusty is still just a little bit better than Acacia's Dejection. But I mean, Acacia's Dejection is very good. You can get what is it? I think you can get Focus Fury on it, or maybe not Focus Fury. I know you can get Incandescent. Of course, you can get Incandescent, which makes it automatically like an S tier or A tier weapon. Acacia's Dejection, in my opinion, probably the best legendary trace rifle in the game. It's only like direct competition is Retrace Path, and Retrace Path again has old rolls, so yeah. I think that it belongs right there. Moving on, we've got Mita's Reckoning, actually, I think is how you pronounce it. We're putting that at the very bottom. Mita's Reckoning is an absolute terrible fusion rifle. First of all, it's a high impact fusion rifle, so it's got that incredibly slow charge time. But the perks on it they don't really scream anything exciting. Like, I literally don't think I've ever seen somebody using this in just regular old content, you know? It's not a very good one. That's all I can say about it. We're going to move past it now. Rufus's Fury. This is our first S tier weapon. Rufus's Fury inside of PvE is absolutely phenomenal. You can get some crazy good perks on it. Demolitionist in that third column there is really awesome, especially in strand builds where you're, grenade reliance on, say, Warlocks and Titans, grapple Titans, of course. But you can also get some phenomenal rolls in that last column. Paracausal Affinity is an amazing perk. I absolutely love it. In fact, my personal crafted roll has Demolitionist, Paracausal Affinity, but you could also throw on Hatchling if you wanted to. Hatchling's a great perk. Like, this is a very strong weapon. I think this is rightfully placed here in the S tier column. Plus, it's a 720 strand auto rifle. Like, that's just awesome. The only competition I can think that this has is like maybe Quicksilver Storm, and Quicksilver Storm is an exotic, so but moving on, we have Carax's Distress. I'm gonna put this Carax's Distress. I'm thinking, I think we'll put it in the middle of B tier right now. It's a Strand rapid fire grenade launcher. So Strand, of course, really good. Rapid fires are pretty good. It has awesome perks too, but I think one of the things that kind of holds it back is the fact that it's a rapid fire. Like, rapid fires are not the premier grenade launcher. I'm pretty sure adaptives do more damage, but it is still a very good weapon. You can get things like reconstruction on it. You can also get that perk Paracausal Affinity. I'm pretty sure you can get chain reaction in the left column, which is awesome. In the third column, sorry, which is pretty cool. You can do like chain reaction, Paracausal Affinity to really ramp up that damage against ads. This thing is an ad clearing monster. In fact, when I have this equipped, I'm typically using it to clear ads, which is why I've put it here. But unfortunately, primaries kind of do the same thing. Rufus's Fury can clear ads with, not quite the same effectiveness as this, but Rufus's Fury also has unlimited ammo, and it doesn't sacrifice your heavy slot. That's why Carax's Distress is in the middle of B tier. Moving on, we have Briar's Contempt. Again, I think this is an easy S tier weapon. Briar's Contempt actually immediately sunset Cataclysmic down here, which we'll talk about Cataclysmic in a second, but it can get some incredibly good rolls. Rewind rounds, Focus Fury, rewind rounds, and bait and switch. You can get reconstruction, bait and switch. Like, you can get all kinds of awesome rolls on this weapon. Plus, it is an aggressive fusion rifle, which means it fires in that 3-round burst, which means it does a lot of damage. This is easily an S tier weapon. So yeah, that's where it belongs up there. Michael's Reverence. Oh, this is so hard for me to do. This is really tough. This is really, 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 really tough, but I'm going to put it at the top of C tier. Michael's reference inside of PvP is absolutely amazing, but this is a PvE tier list. Outside of having, like, you know, hatchling and paracausal affinity, there's really nothing, or in the fourth column, there's nothing in the third column that complements these well. If it had maybe something really cool like rapid hits, you know, it has rewind rounds, which I guess is okay, but rewind rounds on a sidearm just doesn't really scream excitement. I'd say the best PvE role this can probably get is like rewind rounds and paracausal affinity. Maybe you could make an argument for like pugilist, hatchling if you're doing like a strand warlock build, but that third column is really disappointing for this weapon. Like they could have really given us some awesome options here, and they just kind of didn't. But yeah, that's Michael's reference. I'm gonna leave it right there. Oh, forbearance. Of course, this might be one of the oldest crafted weapons, but this is still one of the best weapons in the game. It can roll with Ambitious Assassin, Chain Reaction. That's really all you need to know. It is still going to go up here. I know that there's, you know, the Brave Arsenal version, but the Brave Arsenal version does not have Soul Drinker on it. And Soul Drinker is an amazing perk. It's an amazing perk. But we're not talking about perks. This just has an incredibly powerful role. Like, this is such a potent weapon. It is still used today. We'll see how it is after the final shape, because of course Chain Reaction is getting a nerf, but I think it's still going to be very good. This weapon is an easy S tier. This is probably, I don't think there's any weapons in here that are going to take this weapon's place as the top of the S tier category. But moving on, we have Abyss Defiant. Oh, no, okay, I gotta be fair. I love Abyss Defiant. I think it's a wonderful PvE weapon, but I don't think it's S tier. It's got Heal Clip, Incandescent, which of course Heal Clip and Incandescent is an amazing combo. I'll put it at the top of A. I just, because it's a 360, I don't think it's fair that I can put it in S tier. If it was maybe a 450, or definitely a 600. If it was a 600, it would easily be S tier. If it was a 450, I'd probably put it in S tier, but it's a 360. 360s definitely are held back by that fire rate. So I'm putting it at the top of A tier for now. And again, Heal Clip, Incandescent, it's a great roll. You can throw on a Reload Masterwork plus Flared Magwell for a pretty snappy reload too. It's also, I mean, this thing does have fantastic stats too. Like we can't ignore that. It's got some amazing stats, but at the same time, stats are not necessarily everything inside of PvE. So yeah. What's next? Insidious. Oh, Insidious. This is another weapon that suffers because it's just old and out of date. I guess it came out before Arc 3.0. I love the weapon. It is a pulse rifle. It's an aggressive pulse rifle, so it's 4-round burst. It can also get rapid hit. I love rapid hit on pulse rifles. This was actually one of the first pulse rifles I got, aside from Sacred Providence, that could roll with rapid hits on it, and so that's immediately like made me love it. But in this day and age, as of right now, I think that it's only fair to probably put this. I don't know if I should put it behind or in front of Oversoul Edict. I'm gonna put it behind Oversoul Edict. The only reason why is because Oversoul Edict, of course, has Arc 3.0 synergy. This weapon does not, which is really, really unfortunate. When they eventually redo Vow of the Disciple weapons, this weapon is going to probably skyrocket to A tier or S tier, because it's a very strong gun. Unfortunately, like I said, it's held back by those rolls. It can get some neat stuff. You know, you have Dragonfly and Rampage, which I think is a pretty awesome roll. Adrenaline Junkie Demolitionist is another role that you can get on this weapon, which I think is pretty cool. But rapid hit really takes the cake. Unfortunately, in that third column, there's nothing really that great that goes with it. Like Rampage has been kind of power crept just out of the game, and Rampage is, in my opinion, probably the best perk you can get in that third column. But yeah, I think it's fair to put it down there. If you disagree, tell me why in the comments. Lubray's Ruin. Oh man, I love the look of this weapon, but if we're being honest with ourselves, I think this is it's not that great of a weapon. It has no synergy with you know, our 3.0 subclasses. It's solar, which, you know, at the time it came out, it was one of two glaives. The other one was void, this one was solar. So this definitely felt a lot stronger. You know, it was more sought after because of the fact that it was a solar glaive. It also looks incredible, and it is literally Rolk's weapon, which I think is amazing. I wish it would do the animation that Rolk's version of the glaive does with the twisting. It doesn't. Bungie maybe listen to me and do that in the future or something, but Unfortunately, it's just its perks have been kind of power crept out. You know, we had Judgment of Kel'Garath that dropped a couple seasons later, and Judgment of Kel'Garath is an amazing glaive that just outshines this in every single way. It's the same archetype too, that aggressive glaive. So I'm putting it down here. I don't think it's quite as bad as these two inside of PvE, but it's not good. It's not good. Oh boy, Chattering Bone. Okay, Chattering Bone. This one's pretty interesting because Chattering Bone, again, it has some really neat rolls. It can get kill clip in the third column, which is pretty awesome. I want to put it high because of the fact that it has like rapid hit, kinetic tremors, kill clip, rampage, or kill clip, kinetic tremor, sorry. But it's also a lightweight pulse rifle, and I really don't see it used very often. I'd say probably I'd put it at the top of C tier, just above Michael's Reverence. Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair place for it. Again, it's got some really neat rolls, but it is kind of held back by the fact that it is a pulse rifle, a 450 pulse rifle at that. And again, this is PvE only, not talking about PvP. Apex Predator, oh my lord. Actually, I lied. I think Apex Predator has got to go up there. It's got to be second. Apex Predator, Reconstruction, Bait and Switch is a monster, especially in any kind of Solar Surge environment, which of course this season is Solar Surge. It's a monster. This thing is incredible. This is the sole reason why I would say go grind out those Last Wish weapons. I mean, all the Last Wish weapons are pretty neat. Tyranny of Heaven, of course, pretty cool. But Apex Predator is the premier. Like, that is the thing that really shines from Last Wish. Bait and Switch, Reconstruction, Impact Casing. It's an amazing weapon. It definitely deserves S tier. The only reason I'm putting it behind Forbearance is because Forbearance is a special weapon. You get more use out of it, but Forbearance's ad clearing capabilities are absolutely incredible. Like, you know, you could literally run double specials if you had Forbearance on. But Apex Predator, if I could put these two in like the same spot, I'd probably put these two in the exact same spot because yeah, it's just great. But yeah, Apex Predator, definitely top of S tier. Let's see here. Transfiguration. Ooh, Transfiguration. I don't like this weapon. It's got neat rolls. You can get things like Kill Clip, Rampage for 2 taps in PvP, but this is a PvE discussion, and I'm gonna say it's probably down here. Like, it's a 150 scout. 150 scouts inside of PvE are not where it's at, so they don't hit hard enough. They don't deal enough damage. They're slow. You know, it's gonna go down there. Again, it's got neat rolls, but neat rolls is kind of it. But moving on here, we have Zauli's Bane. And now Zauli's Bane is a very good hand cannon. I can't put it in S tier. I cannot put it in S tier, and I'll explain why in a second. But I think that putting it in A tier is a pretty straightforward option. I think I'll put it right there. I don't think it's quite as good as Acacia's Dejection or Trusty, but it's definitely a great weapon. It has Incandescent on it, so Incandescent is a wonderful perk. In that first column, you can get Explosive Payload. Actually, no. You know what? I will move it up. I'll move it up here to the top of A because I actually forgot about Explosive Payload. Explosive Payload increases your damage by, is it like 10 or 15%? So when you have Explosive Payload and Incandescent on, you're just dealing like the same amount of damage as like a Kinetic 140, which I think is incredibly awesome. Again, inside of PvE only, not inside of PvP. But yeah, Zauli's Bane is a wonderful hand cannon. Like, if you go out and get it crafted, craft it with Explosive Payload and Incandescent. You could also, if you want to, you can craft with Firefly Explosive Payload. That's like a Fatebringer roll, sort of, but solar. But yeah, very strong weapon. If I had forgotten about Explosive Payload, I would have put it back here. But Explosive Payload brings it up a lot. It's a very good perk. Moving on, we got Fang of Ear-Utes. I just said I love 260s, but Fang of Ear-Utes, I think I'll put it at the bottom of A tier. Of course, 260s are phenomenal. I love 260s. This is no exception. It can get those perks that I really desire on it. You know, rapid hits, hatchling, that's a Strand boy's dream come true. But I think it's not quite as good as Trusty because Incandescent, in my opinion, just feels a little bit better for ad clear. Like, yeah, Threadlings are nice, but Threadlings can sometimes be finicky. They can, you know, explode on the wrong enemy. They can go after bosses instead of other ads, and primaries to me are like ad clearing weapons. But yeah, you can do Precision Instrument on Fang of Ear-Utes, but still, I think where it is here in A tier is probably about where it needs to be. Moving on, though, we have Nation of Beasts. This Arc 140 hand cannon. This is a pretty solid hand cannon. I don't use it much personally, but I also don't use the hand cannons very much personally. It does have some really awesome rolls. Of course, Volt Shot, Eddy Currents, you know, it can get Kill Clip on there. I'm gonna put it probably at the top of B tier, just because it is it's a good hand cannon. I'm not gonna lie, like it's got some great stats on it. But yeah, I think that's a decent enough place to put it. It does not actually, no, it can get explosive payload on it though, can't it? Ooh. I think, okay, because it can get explosive payload, I'll probably move it up probably to here. I think that's a pretty fair place to put it. Explosive payload, again, not to be underestimated. It's a great perk. Unfortunately, reload's a little bit on the slow side, and Volt Shot is not as strong as Incandescent, which is why Zowlies is up here. Volt Shot is down here. I think that's a pretty fair place to put it. Moving on, we have Tachyon Force. Tachyon Force, I use Tachyon Force quite a bit during boss damage phases. So I think that I'm tempted to put it at the bottom of A tier. You can get Reconstruction, Controlled Burst, which leads to just a massive amount of DPS that can just dump out of this weapon. The one thing that does hold it back is it only holds 14 rounds in reserves if you don't have any reserve mods, and that's really disappointing in my opinion. Like that's a very low amount of ammo, especially because with the right magazine setup, you're looking at having 12 in your magazine and then only 2 in reserves. But at the same time, it can't be, it can't be matched in terms of its damage. Like its damage is very, very good. I think at the bottom of S tier, sorry, is where it deserves to be. Moving on, we have Age-Old Bond. Age-Old Bond, man, I really like the weapon. Again, it's got that cool subclass synergy. You can get Repulsor Brace, destabilizing rounds, but it is a 360. It is still a 360, and I feel like it's just not quite as versatile, I guess, as Abyss Defiant. I'm going to put it in B tier. I'll probably put it like right in the middle of B tier. Is it better than... Yeah, I would say it's probably better than these two pulse rifles. I don't know if I'd say it's quite as good as Caraxus's Distress. I think right here's a good spot. Again, I know these two are like kind of easily comparable, I guess, is the way to put that. But Abyss Defiant, in my opinion, just has more versatility with Heal Clip. You can activate your what are they called? Fragments, Ember Benevolence. You can burn enemies out. I think this one's just better. Like, yes, Destabilizing Round has a similar effect to Incandescent, but Incandescent actually damages other enemies. Destabilizing Round does not. So you have to get a kill, get the other enemies volatile, then destroy, then shoot at those enemies and make them explode too. I think just depending on the situation, you could swap these two out. Of course, if you're running a Void subclass, this is a great option. If you're running a Solar, this is a great option. But I think just looking at everything all together, it probably deserves to be about right here. Succession. Ooh, this is easily... I'm going to put this up here. I think this is definitely better than Tachyon Force. I don't know if it's necessarily better than Briar's Contempt in terms of, of its power. Obviously, you could use them together if you wanted to, but it is a kinetic sniper, so it does bonus damage up until, I guess, final shape drops, which then it's not going to, which I don't understand. But you can get Reconstruction and Vorpal. You can get Reconstruction Focus Fury. You can get a bunch of perks that really make this weapon very good. Like this is a great raid weapon. Of course, it's part of the Brave Arsenal now, and it's still got some great rolls, so you can go farm it that way. But this is easily an S tier weapon. I see why they brought it back into the Brave Arsenal. I'm debating here. Yeah, I think we'll leave it right there for now. Then we move on to Cataclysmic. I'm going to put Cataclysmic right here. This is pretty easy. Cataclysmic is a great weapon. You can get 4 times the charm and bait and switch. 4 times the charm is awesome because it just generates 4 free shots. If you have a 6-round magazine, you're going to get 4, you're going to be able to shoot 10 times, but 4 out of those 10 are going to be free ammo, which you can't beat that. The only reason that it's not in S tier, sorry, is because this weapon right here, Briar's Contempt, is in S tier, and Briar's Contempt just is better, in my opinion, than Cataclysmic. Like, if you're maybe in an environment where ammo is like Famine is a modifier where you're not getting much ammo, maybe Cataclysmic would be the better option. But I think that between these two, I think that Cataclysmic is just better. I think Briar's Contempt is just better. Cataclysmic is good. They're both solar. Like I would say if this had Void or Strand or something like that, I would move it up to A tier, but because this is also solar, it doesn't deserve that spot. Okay. Moving on though, we have Heritage. This is a pinpoint slug shotty in the kinetic slot. And yes, I know this is the best weapon. This is like hands down, probably the best slug shotty for PvE. But at the same time, it is a shotty. And since they nerfed the whole, swapping between two slug shotties for damage, I really don't see it very often. Like I'm going to put it probably... Ooh, I think I'll put it ahead of Duma Chelchis and C tier here. I think these two are, I think these two weapons are better. This weapon, again, for what it is, it's amazing. Like, it's got great stats, it's got awesome perks and stuff, but when was the last time you're using a slug shotty for any type of damage or even to kill high health targets? Like, I don't see that happening very often ever. So it's going right there. We also have Nessa's Ablation, which is the exact same archetype, just in the energy slots. I'll probably put them right next to each other. I think I like Heritage more. Actually, I'd probably use Doom and Chelchis over Nessa's Ablation. Nessa's Ablation, it can get Void synergizing perks on it, which I guess is pretty cool, but at the same time, it's a special weapon. I'm not using ads to kill special, or I'm not using special weapons to kill ads. Sorry. Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair place for it to go. Moving on, we have Commemoration. Oh my god, Commemoration. We're going to put Commemoration up at the top of S tier. Commemoration is a wonderful, wonderful machine gun. I think Commemoration is probably the best machine gun in the game. Yes, I know Hammerhead exists. Hammerhead, in my opinion, does not quite come to the level that Commemoration does. Commemoration, you can get Reconstruction, Killing Tally. Pardon me, guys. Which allows you to basically hold it forever. It automatically reloads itself in your hands. You're getting that damage boost from Killing Tally. I have literally watched people take these into like day one raids and stuff and use these like primary. Use this weapon like a primary. So I think that it definitely deserves to be up here. Oh, I apologize. I've been talking a lot today. Yeah, I think that Commemoration deserves its place right here in S tier. Again, I don't think it's quite as good as these. Like, I think this is probably the better... Commemoration probably does have the better ad clear as opposed to Forbearance, but Forbearance is a special weapon, which means you're getting a lot more ammo for it, plus explosions, right? And then, of course, Apex Predator for boss damage is just... It's too good. It is too good to pass up. To say the Commemoration is better than Apex would just be a lie, but Commemoration definitely deserves to be in that S tier category. Moving on, we have Posterity, 180 round per minute arc hand cannon. It can get some unique rolls. You can get Volt Shot in the third column, which is almost unheard of, but at the same time, it's a 180 scout rifle, similar to this one right here, which we'll talk about it in a second. But I'm gonna put this one probably in C tier. I think that I'd probably use Michael's Reverence over Posterity, but yeah, I think that's a pretty good call for it to go right there. And again, maybe it's because it's a little bit out of date on its perks. It's not as out of date as some of these weapons down here, but it's a little bit out of date. Maybe if it came back and had Eddy Current Volt Shot, you could say there's more subclass synergy, but at the same time, Eddy Current is not that great of a perk anyways. Yeah, I think this is fine. They probably should have done, what is it, like maybe, well, I don't know. It has Redirection on it, but Redirection to me just does not feel like a good perk at all. I'll put it right there, and it's going to stay right there. Moving on, we have Bequest, and Bequest is going to go... Ooh. I'm going to put Bequest at the top of A tier. It is a very unique sword in that it naturally has like plus 10 impact to every other sword in the game, which is really awesome. Okay, and that alone just makes it an absolute unit. People were using this, still are using this to kill Crota. You can proc Surrounded for another 40, is it 35 or 40? I think it's 35. 35% damage boost on this sword. It is a very, very strong sword. It is, I would say probably the strongest legendary sword in the game. Yeah, I'd say it's probably the strongest legendary sword in the game. It's amazing. It deserves a place in A tier, and I would say it's probably better than Cataclysmic. Again, it's not S tier because I would much rather use one of these over Bequest, but Bequest is, I mean, it's a very good sword. A tier for sure, top of A tier for sure. Moving on, we have Word of Crota, a 180 round per minute void hand cannon. And I know I put Posterity down here, but Word of Crota is just flat out better than Posterity, and it can get some really, like, just some better rolls. I'm gonna put it, I'll probably put it in B tier. I'll probably say it's about right here. Nah, actually, I'll put it right there. And who knows, maybe when we're done, I'll come back and switch these two around. But I feel like Word of Crota fills the same role that Age-Old Bond does. That's why they're going to be right next to each other. Supremacy. Oh, this is easy. This is, no, I'll put it probably like that. This is an S tier weapon. It's got some great rolls. Rewind rounds and bait and switch is great. You can get rewind rounds, or was it 4 times charm and triple tap to just shoot basically forever, which I think is pretty cool. But it's a high impact, or sorry, not high impact. It's a rapid fire frame. I was going to say high rate of fire. It's a rapid fire frame. So I think that it's fair enough to put it up here. It's got killing potential. It outputs a lot of damage. I almost want to put it ahead. I almost want to switch this in Succession, but I think that Succession is a little bit more versatile, because against like orange bars or mini bosses, Succession is better. Against bosses, Supremacy is way better, but also Succession is great against bosses too. So I think that's a pretty fair place to put it. Then we have Song of Ear-Utes, which is another 450 round per minute machine gun, but it's arc. And I'm gonna say it's a good weapon, but it's not nearly as good as Commemoration. I'm gonna put it probably right there. Like I would probably use these weapons ahead of this one, but I think that Song of Ear-Ute is a good weapon. Like, it can get some good rolls. You can get, if you wanted to, you can do rewind rounds, bait and switch, which I don't know why you'd be using a machine gun for damage, but that's there. You can also get like Feeding Frenzy and Volt Shot, which again, I don't like Volt Shot. I don't like reloading heavy weapons and special weapons. Like, reloading on a primary is fine, but for a special weapon, or a heavy weapon in this case, not very good. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good place for it. And finally, we have Submission. Yes, I realize I put Doom Encheltress on here twice. Oopsies, sorry. Submission. Where is Submission going to go? Again, Submission is a weapon that it kind of struggles from being old and out of date. I think if they were to bring it back, I would probably, I'm going to put it probably about right there. Yeah, its rolls are just out of date. It's an old weapon. It doesn't have anything really like new. Like, maybe if they come back and refresh the rolls on Vow of the Disciple, this could roll with kinetic tremors, which I think would instantly bring it up. But about the best like first column perk that has a subsistence, and then I think you can get Frenzy. Subsistence Frenzy isn't awful, but at the same time, like, I would probably just rather use any other submachine gun, especially anything that synergizes with, you know, our yeah. I think that's it. I think that's my tier list. I'm gonna look over it one more time. Let's figure out if there's anything that's out of place. You know, as I'm looking at it here, I think I'm gonna move Rufus's Fury down a little tiny bit. I'll probably move it to right there. I would still probably use Rufus over these, but these 4 right here, they deserve to be at the top. I think everything else is looking pretty good. Pretty accurate to where I would want it. Again, all these weapons down here at the bottom, they just need better rolls, really. And they're in unfavorable archetypes. 390, you know, a fast charge time fusion rifle. This one's just been sunset by another glaive that was added of the same solar damage, same archetype and everything. But yeah, I think that's my list of best, my tier list for raid weapons. Crafted raid weapons, mind you, this is not including Guardian Salvation or Volta Glass, because those are not crafted. These are all the craftable raid weapons, and this is the order that I would put them in. So, of course, if you disagree, tell me why you disagree with weapons down in the comments. I like to hear your thoughts on stuff like this. And yeah, that's it for me. I'll see y'all guys in the next one. Do me a favor, watch the videos you see here on the end screen, because for whatever reason, YouTube thinks you'll like them. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Bye for now, guys.